All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling something that I think a lot of people are curious about plant-based diets and how they affect cholesterol.
Yeah, it's a hot topic for sure.
We're taking a deep dive into this WebMD article called Plant-Based Diets and Your Cholesterol. I found some pretty surprising stuff in there.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, for one, you don't have to become a full-on vegetarian or vegan to see benefits.
Right.
Just incorporating more plant-based foods can make a real difference.
Absolutely. Small changes can have a big impact.
The article actually mentioned that just eating a half cup of black beans every day can get you almost halfway to the soluble fiber you need for lower cholesterol.
Hmm. Interesting.
I know, right? So we're talking about adding in more of these good things,
Right.
but what about the stuff we should be cutting back on?
Well, saturated fat is a big one. You find a lot of that in fatty meats.
Right.
That definitely raises your cholesterol levels.
Yeah.
And then there's dietary cholesterol itself, which also plays a role.
Gotcha. So less of the fatty meats.
Yeah.
You mentioned soluble fiber earlier. I've always thought of fiber as like, keeping things moving, digestion-wise.
Mhm.
But how does it actually lower cholesterol?
Okay, so think of soluble fiber like a tiny sponge in your digestive system.
Okay.
And as it moves through, it binds to cholesterol and helps your body flush it out,
So it's like a little cleaning crew?
pretty much.
So by eating things like beans and oats and berries, we're giving our bodies the tools to get rid of that excess cholesterol.
Exactly.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Now, have you ever heard of plant sterols?
Plant sterols.
They
Yeah.
sound pretty scientific.
They are, but in a good way.
Uh-huh.
Think of them like little bouncers at the door of your intestines.
Bouncers.
Yeah. They have a similar structure to cholesterol,
Hmm.
so they compete with it and block some of the bad cholesterol from getting into your bloodstream.
That's pretty amazing. I never knew something like that was going on in my oatmeal.
It's incredible what plants can do.
It really is. The article said just 2 grams a day, which you can get from nuts and seeds and stuff, can lower LDL cholesterol by 5 to 10%.
Wow. Yeah, that's a significant decrease.
So when people hear a plant-based diet, they often think vegetarian or vegan.
Mhm.
Is there one type that's like the best for cholesterol?
That's a great question. And a lot of people wonder about that. Those diets can definitely be beneficial, but it's not always about going to those extremes.
Okay.
The key is balance. You can still have some animal products,
Mm.
especially ones that have other benefits.
Like seafood, right. You mentioned that before.
Exactly. It's a great source of omega-3 fatty acids. And not all omega-3s are created equal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are three main types: ALA, EPA, and DHA.
Okay.
ALA is found in plant sources like flax seeds. But EPA and DHA, those are the ones that are really powerful for lowering cholesterol.
I see.
And you get those directly from seafood,
So even if you're not totally plant-based, including some seafood can really help your heart.
big time. And low-fat dairy can also be part of a healthy eating plan.
Interesting. So it's really about putting together a balanced plate.
Absolutely. But keep in mind, not all plant-based foods are created equal.
Wait, so there are good plant-based foods and bad ones.
Well, let's just say some require a bit more careful consideration.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are the pitfalls we need to watch out for?
It all comes down to reading labels carefully. Just because it says plant-based doesn't mean it's healthy.
Oh yeah, those ultra-processed foods. I've totally fallen for that before. Like, oh, it's vegan, must be good for me.
Right, but a lot of those are loaded with added sugars and unhealthy fats and sodium,
Mm.
not really doing us any favors.
So even if they're plant-based, still got to watch out for all that. What else should we be careful about?
Tropical oils,
Hmm.
like coconut and palm oil.
Okay.
They are plant-based, but they're high in saturated fat, so they can raise your cholesterol.
Gotcha. So it's all about making smart choices, understanding how different foods affect your body. Speaking of which, we talked about refined carbs earlier. How do those play into all of this?
Yeah, if you have too many refined carbs, like white bread or sugary drinks,
Yeah.
that can raise your triglycerides, which increases your overall cholesterol.
Okay, so those are best in moderation. What about things like trans fats? I know those are bad news.
They are the worst.
Yeah.
They raise your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol,
Right?
and they lower your HDL, which is the good cholesterol.
So they're like double trouble.
Exactly.
So we've talked about a lot of things to watch out for, but what about getting some expert help?
Oh, for sure. Talking to a registered dietitian can be super helpful.
Yeah, especially when you're making big changes to your diet.
Exactly. They can help you figure out what you need and make sure you're getting all the right nutrients.
That makes sense, like having a personalized roadmap. There are certain nutrients that are harder to get on a plant-based diet, right?
Hmm.
Like, what are the big ones I should be aware of?
Well, vitamin B12 is a big one. It's mostly found in animal products.
Okay.
So if you're not eating those, you'll need to supplement or look for fortified foods.
What about iron? I always thought that was mostly from meat.
You can get iron from plant-based foods like lentils and
Yeah.
spinach,
Okay.
but your body doesn't absorb it as easily as iron from meat.
So is there anything you can do to help with that?
Yeah, pairing those foods with vitamin C can make a big difference.
Okay, interesting. So vitamin C is like iron's best friend, helping
Yeah.
it get where it needs to go. What about other nutrients? Anything else we need to be mindful of?
Zinc is another one. It's important for your immune system and all sorts of things. You can
Hmm.
find it in pumpkin seeds, chickpeas, cashews, stuff like that.
Okay, good to know. I love those.
But soaking or sprouting them can actually help your body absorb the zinc better.
Soaking and sprouting, what exactly does that mean?
Soaking is basically just letting them sit in water for a while, usually overnight.
Okay,
That activates enzymes and breaks down compounds that can make it harder to absorb nutrients.
I see.
Sprouting takes it a step further, where you let them start to germinate.
Interesting.
That boosts the nutritional value even more.
So we're giving those little seeds a head start.
Exactly. And then there are omega-3 fatty acids. Seafood's a great source. But if you're not eating that, you can get ALA from plant sources.
Right, like flax seeds and walnuts. What about other plant-based sources for omega-3s?
Chia seeds and hemp seeds are good too. But our bodies don't convert ALA to EPA and DHA very efficiently. So you might want to consider algae-based omega-3 supplements if you're strictly plant-based.
Got it. So it seems like there's a real art to getting all the nutrients you need on a plant-based diet.
There is. It takes a bit of effort, but the benefits are amazing. We're talking reduced risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, some types of cancer, you name it.
It's like giving your body a gift, and you're
Yeah.
doing something good for the planet, too.
Right. Reducing our reliance on animal products is great for the environment.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
First of all, I hope they have a better understanding of what a plant-based diet actually is. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It's about enjoying a wide variety of delicious plant foods.
And making informed choices that fit your individual needs.
Yes. And second, I hope they see that while there are some things to be mindful of, those challenges can be overcome,
With the right knowledge and support.
for sure. Whether that's working with a dietitian or just doing your research.
Well said. Stay tuned, everyone, because in our last segment, we'll be sharing some practical tips and resources to help you incorporate more plant-based goodness into your life.
All right, welcome back to the show. We've been digging deep into plant-based diets and cholesterol, and now I think it's time to talk about actually putting all this knowledge into practice.
Yeah, let's get practical.
I know I'm super excited about all the benefits, but I think some people might be feeling a bit overwhelmed. Where do you even begin?
I think that's a really common feeling. But the good news is you don't have to make a huge change all at once. It's all about taking small steps. Okay, so baby steps. What are some easy things people can start with?
One thing I really like is what's called the crowding out method. Instead of focusing on what to take away, just try adding in more plant-based foods.
Okay.
So if you usually have eggs for breakfast, maybe add some berries and walnuts. Or if you have a turkey sandwich for lunch, add a bunch of veggies to it. Or maybe swap some of the turkey for avocado.
Yeah, just little tweaks here and there.
Exactly. What about dinner? That's usually the biggest meal.
Dinner is always the toughest for me. What are some good plant-based dinner ideas?
There are tons of great plant-based recipes out there. Hearty lentil stews, veggie curries, stir fries, big salads. You could even explore different cuisines and find new favorites.
It's like a whole culinary adventure. Are there any good websites or resources you recommend for finding those recipes?
Oh, there are so many. Forks Over Knives, Minimalist Baker, She Glows. Those are some of my favorites. And for meal planning, there are some helpful apps like Mealime or Plant Jammer.
Oh, I'll have to check those out. It's not just about what we eat, it's also about how we eat. What about mindfulness? How does that play into all of this?
That's so important. Mindful eating means slowing down, really tasting your food, paying attention to when you're actually hungry. It can make mealtime so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's easy to just scarf down your food without really thinking about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
But by being more present, you can turn eating into a truly nourishing experience. And most importantly, don't be afraid to experiment and have fun. Try new things. Get creative in the kitchen.
Yeah, make it your own.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. We've gone from the science behind plant-based diets and cholesterol all the way to practical tips for incorporating these ideas into our lives.
It's been great. I hope people feel inspired to give this a try.
Yeah, I hope so too. And before we go, I want to leave everyone with one last thought. What's one small change you can make this week to add more plant-based foods to your diet? Maybe it's adding some fruit to your breakfast or having almonds as a snack instead of something else. Every little bit helps.
I love that. Even small changes can make a big difference over time.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.